This is Moxie Comic Books. Let's talk comics. Specifically, an update to the Phoenix Comicon controversy, where they are now requiring volunteers to the convention to be members of an organization called Blue Ribbon Army, where people have to pay a membership of about $20 to $100, depending on the level that they want to get into annually, essentially making volunteering at the Phoenix Comicon a privilege one has to pay for. So some more details kind of came out, and this is comicbookresources.com reporting. According to Matt Solberg, who seems to kind of at present be the villain in the story, he wants to shrink like the number of people in that are volunteering for the convention. So, last year they had about like 1,400 volunteers, and this year they're going to cut that number down to about 1,300 volunteers. And in future conventions, they want to only have about 950. And one of the reasons why he cited that he's making these changes is because in 2015, he saw the number of volunteers jump from 1,700 to 2,200 in the 3 weeks preceding the show for no apparent reason, as quoted in the article. And at one point, he saw one team that had 54 staff members who had badges, but none of them had any defined, any roles or anything like that. So that's the first thing. He thinks that people are claiming to be volunteers. He thinks that people are volunteering just so they can get a free badge. Okay. The second point is that he made in an earlier piece that I read about the situation. He was saying that he wasn't satisfied with the level of work he was getting from the volunteers, so that these changes had to be made. Okay, so let's address these two concerns. Number one, it's not the fault of the volunteer if they're standing around with nothing to do, if the convention itself wasn't better organized and didn't have duties assigned to these people, right? So basically, he's admitting that the convention took on more volunteers than they needed. That was their fault, not the volunteers' fault. The volunteers are volunteering because I bet most of them wanted, to take another look at the convention from a different perspective, right? They wanted to get involved. Sure, a big part of it is probably they want to get that free badge, but a lot of them probably would have done the work. That's my guess. I could be wrong, okay? I actually think that this could kind of be a valid reason by Matt Solberg, but also I think that he has to accept half of the blame. Right? The convention has to accept half of the blame. They took on too many volunteers. It's their fault that they didn't have proper roles defined, or that they didn't cut off the volunteer acceptance when they reached capacity. Okay? Now, the second point that he's making is he's not satisfied with the amount of work that he's getting from his volunteers. They're free labor, right? So if you want to improve the quality of the event and improve the quality of the volunteering, right? Perhaps you should reward the volunteers or switch over to paid staff, right? Even if it's on a temporary basis. Now, that might logistically be a nightmare, right? But an alternative might be to offer the volunteers like a swag bag, right? Give them an incentive to work for it. And if they don't do their job, then they don't get the swag bag or a variant cover or some other motivation, right? And that right there, I think, is what it kind of boils down to. Matt Solberg, as we saw in other articles, he is, there's a conflict of interest here. He's on the board for the Comic-Con. He is on the board for the Blue Ribbon Army, right? So there seems to be a conflict of interest there. There seems to be something shady going down. He's claiming he's not happy with the quality of the work that he's getting from his free volunteers. So the way he thinks he's going to fix this is, or the way that the convention thinks they're going to fix this, is to have the volunteers pay for the privilege, right? So punish the people who are going to do the job anyway because the convention did a bad job by accepting people that they didn't need in the first place, right? So the convention screwed up, and now they're punishing the people, the actual volunteers who actually want to help out in the convention, right? So none of that really makes sense unless you take a look at the Phoenix Comicon's actual Facebook page, and they had posted that in this post right here, 2017 is finally here, which means that Phoenix Comicon is getting closer. Here's a resolution that's easy to keep. Get your Phoenix Comicon membership passes before prices go up on February 1st. So I think, the fact that he is banning people who criticize him, I think the fact that the convention is doing something very, very shady and trying to kind of pass it off in the guise of, oh, we're doing this to improve the convention, is all BS. I think this is a power grab by Matt Soberg. I think this is an attempt to make more profits. I think this is, I think this is just shady. So if you're a Comic-Con attendee, if you're somebody who is thinking about going to the Phoenix Comic-Con, this is something to consider. I'm not going to say we should ban this guy. I know how hard it is to get a Comic-Con going in certain areas, and I would never want, to take away Comic-Cons from people, right? Especially considering in other news over the weekend, here's an example of a struggling Comic-Con. Geek Expos held over New Year's Eve apparently struggled, right? For example, Stanley only got half of his appearance fee, and apparently, according to this report, some of the money that he got actually came at the expense of some of the other featured attendees. So here's an example of a Comic-Con or a Geek-Con that's not doing so good. So maybe Phoenix Comic-Con, it deserves a chance to kind of steer the ship correct. It looks like it has strong numbers. It looks like it has, a lot of people planning to attend, and it looks like it's a healthy Comic-Con. But, then you see stuff like this where Bleeding Cool requires people to have register to comment in the comment section, and a bunch of people out of nowhere started registering and try to defend Phoenix Comic-Con, and a bunch of people were bashing Phoenix Comic-Con, and it started to, a little war started between the two, and it all just kind of comes down once again to the idea that Matt Solberg seems really thin-skinned, and he seems very defensive, and none of this is hard evidence that something criminal is going on, but it definitely doesn't look good. It definitely speaks volumes about the people who are in charge of Comic-Con, the state that the Comic-Con is in right now. And, if I were living in the area, I would think twice about giving my money to people who behave in this way. So, once again, like I said, I'm no lawyer. I don't really know what's going on other than what I'm reading, but it seems kind of fishy. Anyway, thanks, guys. Once again, I'm very happy to be part of the YouTube comic book community. Thanks for supporting my channel. Thanks for giving me a chance. If you check out my other videos, I have a contest going on right now. If you're one of the first 100 subscribers to my channel, you have a chance of winning a trade paperback of Alan Moore's Watchmen. All you have to do is subscribe, and please make your subscription public so that I actually can see who it is that's subscribing. So when we raffle off the trade, I'll know who to contact just in case you do win. I'm going to be giving away another comic sometime this week, next week. So look forward to those kind of news. Thanks for your support. Like I said, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. If you know more facts about this controversy, if you are on the inside, if you have information that's not public, if you think something I said is factually incorrect, please comment below, and hopefully, hopefully a clear resolution is reached in this, and hopefully the people in charge of Phoenix Comicon can figure out a way of at least doing right by the people who are going to be attending the Comic Con itself. Okay. Anyway, thanks guys.